Meg and Ryan, what is your campaign slogan and what is the meaning behind it?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. So our campaign slogan is a name you know and name you trust. So Ryan and I believe that formed connections and visibility is essential to leadership. One thing we really admire about this past current administration is their presence on campus. It's also something I've always really admired about President Spina too as well. He's someone who it would be very normal for him to just be walking around campus and for him to be like, Meg, what's up, how are you? To a numerous amount of students. I think that it's really important that constituents know their leader, and so that's why we want to be a name that people know. We also have formed a lot of spheres and connections over our 3 years here at UD, so we do believe that we are a name that people know on this campus, which we believe is important. But a name you trust, I think that's a much more important element. Both of us have past leadership experiences, where we have gained trust in many different elements on this campus, and it's something that we hope we have the opportunity to gain within this possible leadership opportunity, is the trust of our constituents, the trust of our peers, the trust of the administration that we represent this community as well as possible, hence why we are a name you know and name you trust.
Sophia.
Yes, thank you. So our campaign slogan is forging a brighter future together. As leaders, we know that success is not found or accomplished by working alone. It takes collaboration, it takes organization, and it takes reaching out to people who you may not even agree with or not involved with. We believe that making campus a better place for students means working hand in hand with organizations, students, staff, and administration, as Meg mentioned, is very important, and getting what we want to get done.
We also believe it is our responsibility to have a positive impact on campus, so that future students have a brighter future, as noted in our slogan. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is for Sophia and Meg. How would you describe your leadership style?
I'm gonna move this over this way, it's a lot easier. So I believe I am a creative and optimistic leader. I try my best to find harmony and balance in whatever I partake in, whether that be classes, extracurriculars, or my jobs. I tend to embrace all ideas and find myself in a position as kind of a peacemaker and mediator, being able to unite others and mediate discussions between parties, which I think a leader needs to be a liaison for, and I fit those qualities. I'm grounded, I'm balanced, and I'm able to take a step back on subjects and discussions to see the bigger picture and where I can navigate that. I consider myself a great communicator. I'm very reliable, and I'm open with whatever decisions I make, as transparency is also extremely important as a leader. One leadership quality of mine that I believe stands out is I'm able to find commonality within diverse interests, yet still focus on priorities and see what the end goal is and how that can impact a day, a month, a year after. I admire and absorb feedback from those I'm working with, and I do not overlook others' contributions and ideas. We would love both of our leadership styles combined. We work with people, not at people, and I believe that is a trait that needs to be understood as a leader on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan, Ryan, same question. How would you describe your leadership style?
Awesome. So both of us would describe our leadership styles as multiple different things. So let's start with the first element, present and active leadership. I talked a little bit about it when I mentioned our past leadership experience. We are the first people there and the last to leave, which is what I think every single leader should be. We're also super gritty. That's something that I think I've learned a lot through my experience in Flyer Enterprise. When you're creating a company and being one of the people that's one of the founding members, like my division, I work at Heritage Coffee House. I've worked there 4 out of the 5 years that it's been open. So there's been a lot of groundwork in my leadership within that specific organization. A lot of grit needs to come with that. Staying extra hours to clean syrup stains off the wall, or working to get our Instagram marketed for by going into every single residence hall day in and day out and slipping sheets under the door. I have that experience being super, super gritty and humble enough to lower myself to some of those menial tasks. So that's something that we both share in our leadership style. Also, like I mentioned, humble leadership style. So something that might seem like a con with our candidacy is that we haven't been a part of student government for a long time. I've taken personally an absence for the past 2 years from my position in student government. I actually see that as being such a positive, and I'll tell you why. Wherever sphere I'm in, I like to increase innovation as much as possible. Change and new things excite me. Building off the past, but trying to find it in a new lens. I think me not being a part of student government for a while, but having that past experience within it, I know how it's run, but I'm humble enough to know that I have a lot to learn to understand what it has become during my 2 years of absence, but I also think I automatically bring both of us a fresh set of eyes to how it can be run. And I think that helps us not have tunnel vision, and also helps it not be repetitive past experiences. So it's just going to only increase innovation, which is something we both strive to do as leaders. And then finally, we're people that love to learn and like to have the humility to know that we have stuff to learn. And stepping into a role that we haven't been in before, we know that we're going to learn a lot from our peers, the senators, everyone else on different committees, different directors, and we are eager to learn and put the time in to be the best leaders that we can be.
What platform promise, this is for Megan Ryan, what platform promise sets your ticket apart from the other?
Quick sip of water. But yeah, so we have a lot on our platform. I really urge you all to follow our Instagram at delaney.alexander22 to learn a little bit more of those things. But we think the key element of our platform that sets us apart is when it comes to Greek life, specifically social Greek life on this campus. I am a member of a sorority, Zeta Tau Alpha. I actually live in our Zeta house on campus. And while I'm not a member of our exec team, I have lived with different members of exec and have learned of the constant frustrations that comes from the break between how the administration deals with fraternity and sorority life on our campus to our different chapters on Greek life. So talking about the College of Pan-Hellenic Council, the CPC, the Interfraternal Council, the IFC chapters, the multicultural Greek chapters, as well as the National Pan-Hellenic Council chapters too. There has been this attitude, I think, with the administration, whether it's housing and residence life or the FSL, fraternity and sorority life, where they've had this negative, I feel like, behavior towards Greek life, specifically social, on our campus, which has made it really hard to be in leadership positions within these organizations and just a general member of them. We want to help bridge that gap, and we're making it one of our priorities to advocate for those different chapters. Whether it be with housing, there's been a lot of different issues that a lot of chapters have seen, whether it's losing their houses or not having enough people to fill them, so dealing with HRL, or whether it's just fraternity and sorority, like changing that attitude that the university has had towards them. We want to advocate for those chapters to change them from being something that the university doesn't like to highlight versus something that's really awesome and a key element to a lot of our students' lives here every single day at UT.
Thank you. Sophia and Anna, you guys have the same question, which is what platform promise sets your ticket apart from the other?
Thank you. For us, for our platform, we believe that our allyship part really sets us apart from our other candidates. As multicultural leaders ourselves, we know the importance of inclusion, and we want to highlight that as president and VP. As Meg stated, there is a disconnect between Greek life and SGA, but there's also a major disconnect between underrepresented students and SGA, and that has been something that we've been focusing on even within student government. We bring those fresh ideas as well. We have been bringing those fresh ideas to student government through our internal work. That will soon be seen. We recognize the importance of all organizations on campus, but organizations, specifically ones under the MEC umbrella, have been overlooked by SGA. And if we are elected, we want to establish those stronger connections with those communities in order to make SGA a more welcoming place, but also the campus in general. We do not believe that those communities are voiceless, as we have heard them and their calls for more unity and inclusion within our student government. And that is what we will aim to do. That is one of our main platforms, and we do believe that sets us apart because we are a part of those groups that have not been included in student government. We know what can be done in student government that can help those groups, those friends that are in those groups, those connections we have to those groups. We can be that liaison, and we can be that help for them, and they can be that help for us because they do so much for our campus, and we believe that student government can help bring awareness to what they do as well. Would you like to add anything?
I would also like to add that on top of underrepresented students, there also is a disconnect between transfer students and commuter students in the community. I feel as though if given opportunity, we could bring more awareness to them so that they feel more connected with our family that we continue to preach in our mottos here on campus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, for Sophia and Hannah, what aspect of student life is in most need of improvement and why? And how do you plan to address this need?
Great. Thank you. So kind of going off our platform, as we said, one of the main issues is just that our campus is full of so many separate different entities and groups, whether that be Greek life, transfer students, commuter students, international students. There's a whole wide range that is just not unified, and we believe that student government should work as that liaison, it should work as that connection, and as I said, we have those connections to be able to do so. We want students to find a place in SGA where they are safe and welcome, where they can come to us with their needs, whereas right now that is not happening, and we know that. We've experienced it ourselves, and we know how to change that if we do have those leadership examples. This looming division halts us students from addressing larger issues that are at hand that can help make a huge impact on this campus and ameliorate it in a multitude of ways. So as I said, I believe the most important aspect is just unifying campus in general, whether, like I said, Greek life, I think Meg made such a great comment there. The MPHC is extremely overlooked, unfortunately, on our campus, and they deserve as much representation as anyone else, and I believe connecting those two with IFC, with student government, I'm working as a liaison could be great. And then MPC too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just really want to say I loved Sophia's answer. I think that is extremely important, and I think a lot of what we both say, we both agree with, so just wanted to call that out. But for me personally, one of the things that I think needs extreme work on and completely is overlooked is sexual assaults on our campus. So personally, unfortunately, my freshman year I was really excited and eager to come to UD, as I feel like many people are. High school wasn't really the place for me, and I was so excited and eager about the opportunity of finding my forever friends within my college life. And unfortunately, like many individuals within my first month here at UD, I became a victim of sexual assault on this campus. I don't know if you're aware, but there's something called the red zone. The red zone is the time in life where people are most at risk of being assaulted, and that time is the first 3 months you step onto a college campus. I think for that reason alone, sexual assault needs to be talked more about here at UD. And we just received even an email yesterday that someone was assaulted at 6 p.m. at night. Most people don't report their assaults too as well, so I can't even imagine how many more there are there. So what we want to do is work with the Equity and Compliance Office on our campus. They oversee Title IX, which deals with acts of discrimination, which sexual violence acts are considered under that. What we want to do is increase the awareness and also look deeper into the policies that they have to protect victims on this campus, whether it be keeping them from being in class with their abuser. Something I faced, the reason I'm behind in classes is after I reported, I ended up being in 3 different classes with the person who assaulted me. Or making sure that there's proper safety for students when it comes to housing, that office advocates for students and making sure that they feel safe where they're living on campus. The other thing that happened to me, I found out that my assaulter was living right next door to me my sophomore year and had to fight 4 months to be moved with my group of roommates away from him. That should not be the case here at UD, and there's serious issues and breaks in the policies that allow those missteps to happen. So that's something Ryan and I are both extremely passionate about and think needs needs to be changed here at UD, working on programs that increase awareness of sexual assaults on this campus, and changing the attitude that just because we view Dayton, UD as being a bubble sometimes, let's pop that bubble, stuff like this happens here and there's something we need to do about it. Thank you.
Again, for Megan and Ron, how do you plan on interacting with the administration and ensuring that student concerns are clear?
Yeah, awesome. So thank you. I'm very fortunate, actually, through my work trying to increase advocacy for sexual assault victims on this campus, to have a prior relationship with Dr. Spino, one that I've forged since my freshman year here at UD. He's been a total ally in my fight for this on campus, whether it be connecting with different alumni that are working in this field currently. So I would definitely be super eager to utilize that experience and relationship that we have built on these past 3 years. And I think that that relationship will really help build strong expectations in order to ensure that students' concerns are addressed and prioritized. I want to view the administration, Ryan and myself, as an ally. I know that they are going to give us feedback, whether it be positive or maybe mostly negative, or pushback to some of our ideas, but I want to really view them, even when they challenge us, as an ally, something that we want to make sure we have in our favor. So when we have something, a concern that a student brings to us, we know that we have them in our pocket and they'll actually take us seriously to help us accomplish what we need to do. And then when it comes to addressing pushback, because obviously we can't imagine that our experiences with the administration, they're just going to be for every single thing that we bring forward, especially when it comes to concerns students have about them themselves. We want to make sure we are prepared leaders, so every single meeting we have with our administration, we have answers to any pushback that we can imagine they have. So if they present us with a no, we're going to say, okay, so I'm hearing you say no. What can I do to change your mind on that? Or this is a something you're pushing back on. Okay, I have these follow-up points that go against what you're saying. And we really do look forward to meeting with them as regularly as possible. I know this is a huge time commitment, something we were both very excited to have fill our GCALs every single day of the week. So we would love the administration's help in that and are really eager to forming those further bonds. Thank you.
Would you like to repeat the question?
Yeah. So thank you. So through our experience in SGA the last 2 years, we have already been able to talk to and connect with many members of the administration, luckily. President Spina being one of them. One example of this is my bar safety program for sexual assault prevention that I implemented. He knew about it, his board knows about it. So we already have that recognition as well, and that just opens the doors for just more community collaboration with him, and just for him to know what is going on in SGA. We already have that door open, and he knows who we are. I believe that communicating in a polite yet transparent manner is extremely important. We do not think that we should shy away from having those difficult conversations that will need to be had when vouching for students' needs, because as we all know, majority of the time what students need maybe not be exactly what administration wants. So we have to be prepared to be able to say those in the correct manner, in a way that will get our point across in an articulate way, and we believe we have those skills and connections already. One example of a tough conversation that happened in SGA this year that we believe probably could have been handled with more transparency and communication with the administration was a disinvitation of Dr. T. That came up many times at our Senate. We've heard many of our constituents express concerns in that manner. So we know more of those conversations will come up, and we see how it happened, and we know how to do it in a different way that can maybe get our point across better to students and also communicate to the administration what students are really needing and really thinking. Great, thank you.
I think it's important to take initiative as well, not waiting for faculty and staff to come to us, rather we come to them instead with student concerns.
Thank you. What is your opinion on how the university has handled COVID-19, and what changes or improvements would you suggest in order forward?
So having been someone who had to quarantine at the beginning of COVID when it hit us, it was an extremely disorganized, not transparent. It was honestly a wreck to go through myself. It was just extremely complicated, whether it have been contact tracing, staying in Mariannus where the food wasn't the best. We didn't get bottled waters, and only on the first day we had to ask our roommates to drop us off water. We did not know what we were getting into. We didn't really have many options. We didn't know who to communicate with. There are so many different steps that I probably would have taken, especially just meeting with SPINA, meeting with administration, posting things on SGA Instagram. What's going to happen to you if you have to quarantine in Mariannus? How does the testing process work? Another issue that I believe occurred, this was all towards the beginning, so I understand they didn't really have anything to go off of, and they were improvements after, but there are certain aspects that I believe just made it more stressful for students in a time where it was already stressful enough, and that added stress was just obviously not a good thing. So especially when we were sent home for that long break without the option of getting any testing available, it was, I know people had to like fly to the health center in order to get a test. It was just so inaccessible, and there was no reasoning for it given out. There was no communication as to why it was occurring, and it was just extremely frustrating dealing with it as a student, and they're sending thousands of students home to families that they could also infect too. So I believe that making SGA a bigger advocate and liaison for students' concerns at that time was extremely important, and it needed to be done in a better manner. And that is definitely something that we would have done, whether it's been holding discussions with students as to their concerns, telling them why issues are occurring, meeting with administration so we can relay that feedback to students so they're not just in a blur of misinformation. I believe that it could have been handled in a different way, but to the best of their abilities, they learned and they adapted, and it eventually got better. And I know I'm excited for the no masks. I believe that came at a perfect time for us. Sorry, Anna, but I think we have been open to a world with no masks here at campus, and it has really brightened everyone's spirits. I remember seeing people in my classes who I've been seeing for 2 years faces. It really took a toll on our mental health, and I really believe that SGA could have implemented a multitude of ways to make that better beforehand. Thank you.
Yeah, so agree with Sophia on so many things. It was such an unprecedented time. If we talk about community here at UT being such a big thing, like that was the biggest barrier to that community, and my heart went out to every single freshman that had to be on campus and transition to this life here at UD, not getting to feel what the rest of us had felt during our first year here at UD. So going into our 2021 school year, I actually had the opportunity to be on one of our Path Forward teams. Dr. Spina asked me to join his team. Basically what that was members of faculty, staff, and the administration, as well as one student per team. And it was basically like focus groups where they could bounce off different ideas of what they were picturing campus would be like when we came back. And also different mandates that they were thinking they were going to have in place, and just a room for discussion. So I was pretty educated on how campus was going to look when we came back. I think it was an unprecedented time for all of us, and they really did try to respond to the pandemic as well as they could. There was a lot of positive responses, I do believe that, but also some negatives. But one thing I will applaud the university on is the level of caution they showed to the pandemic. Unfortunately, one of my friends from home, Michael Lang, was one of the people that passed away from COVID. He was a student here at UT, a freshman at that. And I know it was a big heartache, especially for those of us who knew him from home, but also just for our UT community. And I saw so many people take that tragedy and use it to make themselves in their personal lives take this pandemic seriously, because that's what I think should have happened. It should have been something we all took seriously. I really did applaud the university for that. But one thing that I think was unacceptable and needed improvement was the support for students' needs during that time, especially first-year students on this campus. There was a lack of information on different resources for students who had never been on campus before, so mostly our first-year students. especially when it came to how we could take care of our mental health during that trying time. Every single person in isolation should have been reached out to by the counseling center. I think every single first-year students already should have delivered different resources about online support services we had here at UD. If we didn't have proper online services, we should have had them in that time. And then I think also too, although there was a lot of verbalization, I think you can agree with me on this, from the administration and also our faculty on campus, that we understand that this is an unprecedented time and you're not learning how you used to. I don't feel like they actually expected us to perform any less than we would during in-person classes inside the classroom. There was definitely a lack of accountability from the administration when it came to what they should expect from us on an academic side. And there was no way every single student should have been expected to perform how they normally would, as they would in-person classes. And I think that was something they very verbalized, like, oh, we understand it's a tough time, but when we got to the classroom, we were expected to perform as if nothing was going on and we weren't learning off campus in a totally different environment. So I think that was definitely an error on the school's part, the lack of understanding and accountability.
Sophia and Anna, share what diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you and why you believe they're important.
Thank you. To us, diversity, equity, and inclusion is the representation of different individuals of all different backgrounds, whether that be race, religion, sexuality, or truly anything else. We understand the importance of including all perspectives and voices in order to better our university and SGA in general. At UD, we emphasize the idea of community continuously, which is supposed to include, everyone in our Flyer family, such as current students, Flyer staff, alumni, administration. However, we know that current underrepresented students, such as commuters, transfers, international students, minority students, there's a whole wide range, still feel as though they are not getting their needs met. And we believe that SGA has that responsibility, and diversity, equity, inclusion includes that. We must do better in uplifting them so that they have the opportunity to speak on topics and have that available platform.
I was really excited to answer this question, so I'm going to take this opportunity. But DEI obviously is an internal thing here on campus, but in addition to that, as a data studies scholar, I have recognized that DEI is also an external thing as well. The city of Dayton is very diverse, and it also serves as a multitude of assets to our UD bubble that we can find ourselves in. So I feel as though if we reach out and connect to those assets, it will widen or broaden the idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion to us. Additionally, although many students may face the different challenges that comes with a lack of DEI, it is imperative that we strive to create an inclusive campus so that all students feel welcome and safe, rather than the majority versus the minority or vice versa.
Awesome. So I want to speak really quickly on that and then let Ryan say his piece. So being a student ambassador here at UD, your tour guide, I feel like I've been very involved in hearing a lot of the university's pitches when it comes to explaining our diversity on campus. And I feel like the university often boasts about how diverse we're getting. Our freshman class this year is the most diverse yet. When frankly, our diversity on campus is quite embarrassing, especially like Anastasia mentioned, the city is such an amazing, diverse city. So I think there is, even though our diversity is definitely on the smaller side, there are so many students here at UD from underrepresented populations, and that is not being represented in our staffing here at the university. Like one thing I can mention, I've worked with the counseling center through my work in co-pilots. There is one person of color that works in our counseling center. That is ridiculous. If you expect students to reach out for help, there should be somebody that represents as many students as possible. And although I am a woman, so an underrepresented population, I'm a white woman, I have so much privilege, and I want to be able to use use that privilege to uplift different voices of students who don't share that, as well as be open to being educated on different ways that I can uplift different voices that haven't been given the microphone when they should have. So, Brian.
And kind of piggyback off what Sophia said, so yes, I too am an underrepresented individual, but I wanted to take a moment to look at perspective besides my own. We have individuals from multiple backgrounds, ethnicities, personalities, and communities on this campus, and they too should feel as welcome as I do or you. And so like we've had incidents in the past where like Muslim prayer was vandalized and the defamation of the Spectrum Ally House for the LGBTQ plus community. And so kind of that's exactly what diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to me in this community. These are important to really emphasize the idea of community on campus, while there are still individuals who feel as though they are excluded or don't have that same feeling that we do, I'd say. This is contradictory, and so I feel like we should definitely address that going forward.
Well, thank you so much. This is the end of the responses, of the questions that the candidates have been made aware of. Is at this point that will now ask the audience to please stand and ask the candidates any questions. It can be for a specific candidate, it can be for a specific presidential ticket, or it can be for both tickets. So does anybody have any questions? Please raise your hand. Please.
This is for Ryan and Megan. When it comes to the path point system at the University of Dayton, is there any changes you guys are going to make to it to increase the capacity of what people can be able to achieve, or maybe more spread out throughout the day so it's easier for people to enter schedules?
Yeah, thank you for asking. If you don't mind too, I would love if you guys would want to answer Joe as well, to extend that question to them as well. But we'll definitely start. So part of our platform is Reform, that is specifically talking about our path system. Ryan and I both believe that while the system is broken, it doesn't need to be completely replaced, but it definitely needs changing. I myself have never had more than 15 path points ever in my time here at UD. I've had 5 different jobs since my freshman year trying to pay for college, and someone who flies extremely close to the sun and loves a lot of different things and therefore is super involved. So finding time for path has been extremely impossible. Also my freshman year, due to what happened to me, I was thinking about transferring and had already applied to multiple other schools. So didn't think that there was a place here on this campus for me anyway, so I didn't receive any path credits. Finding housing, sophomore year, you can imagine, was extremely difficult. So we do believe that the path system is broken. It's not in need of being reinvented, but it's in great need of being reformed. So the way that we visualize that, to put that quickly, is in 2 different phases. So first, relying on distant opportunities for students to receive path credit. So whether that be Zoom events, so yes, that's a one-time opportunity, but it can accommodate about 1,000 students rather than, let's say, 50 in a room. So that's much more accommodating, we believe. But then also heavy relying on modules. So those are opportunities that students will have a lot of time to complete. So being busy, you have much more time to complete and gain those path credits. But the part that we're more excited about is rewarding students for their involvement. So the way that we want to do that is, let's say you're involved in a student organization. If you're a base member, you're going to get some path credit for that. Let's say maybe weekly, monthly basis. And then if you have leadership in that organization, you get even more credit. So I always say on my tours, the thing that makes UD so good and so great is the people. That is what is at its core. What I love about the school is the people. The best way to find those people is to get involved on this campus. I feel like that's the best way to get someone out of their shell and encourage them to join orgs. Let's incentivize them. It's business. Let's incentivize it. That's the thing I know. So I would recommend that, and then also rewarding people for their jobs too, as well as any service work too. And that sounds all good and dandy, right? But how are we going to get that done? I feel like in the past this has been a common thing on people's platforms, as it should be, and shows that it's an issue we all believe needs to be addressed. But Ryan and I believe that this hasn't been accomplished in the past because it's only started at an idea. It hasn't been put into action. So what we're currently doing is creating our vision for a new PATH program, as well as laying out the steps we're gonna take to accomplish it. And at day one in our administration, it's the first thing we're gonna walk into Dr. Spina's office and start the conversation on. And we know that we might not be the people that end this conversation and end our term with this already being in development and happening. We know that might not be realistic, but we want to be the ones who start the work on this program and actually get it into fruition so that later teams can put the bow on top of it and have it become a reality. So on anything. Awesome.
Well, thank you for letting us answer this question as well. Path Reform is also a part of our platform, but more tied to mental health. We believe that on top of jobs, classes, social lives, internships, extracurriculars, worrying about housing obviously is a stressor that students should not have to be put through the ringer for. But I just want to start off with this administration now has started working with Aviate. We have already actually had discussions with Aviate to what we can or can't do. So we can go off of that already. As we have met with the head of Aviate, we know the process. The thing with the issues for the number of people in Zoom, unfortunately, even if we wanted to change that, it's up to the people who proctor that Zoom. So depending on the organization, they decide the amount of numbers as per Aviate's words. So maybe working with them, it could be difficult trying to, change the minds of organizations and how they want that path point to go. But I really do love how Aviate has been increasing the number of Zoom and live distance opportunities. They have listened to students during the COVID non-socialization era that these actually work better for us. So just continuing vouching for that obviously is extremely important, as Meg has said. But we do know what can or cannot be done. And we know that we're not going to waste time on things that we know cannot be done because it is not, unfortunately, up to us. But we do know that we want Aviate to become a more fair and equitable process, as we've already started those discussions with Aviate within SGA as well. And I also agree that should be one of our main priorities going straight right away. Figuring out how to make this a more equitable and fair process is extremely important, as the number of students with anxiety has drastically increased, and we believe that PATH has an impact on that, and it will continue if nothing is changed.
I do, just correct me if I'm wrong, I do remember you in your question asking something about scheduling.
Yes.
And not everyone, okay, I just wanted to clarify. But as Sophia has said, SGA has met with Aviate. I was there at the meeting, obviously, sorry. But Aviate did provide results from surveys that they had taken regarding the different class times that people have, as well as the free time. And the way that they have designed just like implementing events throughout the day is based on the surveys that people answer. So part of Sophia and I's platform is getting people to be more willing to participate in those surveys so that we can be a little bit more transparent with different times for events, etc. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you for those responses. Are there any other questions? Please raise your hand if you have any questions. All right, then I'll take the opportunity to ask my own. So I was just talking with Anna Hobie, who is the current vice president of City Government. And so we were talking about how vice presidents are an inch away from the presidents. So why don't the vice presidents, or the respective vice presidents, take an opportunity to just explain why you feel qualified, why you feel that you are qualified to step up and play that important role, should that opportunity be afforded. Maybe you can start with Megan or Ron.
So thank you for your question, first off. I feel like I'm qualified to be vice president because as we asked a question about leadership before, and feel like I can be, open and inclusive, but I also don't have a problem taking the backseat and assisting Meg in any way, shape, or form I can. Obviously, that's one of the core parts of being vice president. I have ideas that I feel like I can execute, and with Meg's help, obviously. Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is really awkward for me. Why I'm qualified, just to clarify.
Why you feel that you're qualified to step into the role of president if that should happen?
Vice president?
President.
Okay.
Is that a confusing question?
Just in case, we get impeached or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
I hope not. I was very confused, I'm not gonna lie. Okay.
If you didn't understand that, you can.
I am a part of plenty of different orgs, such as State Civic Scholars. I'm a diversity peer educator, a Flyer Promise Scholar, and I'm a part of Phi Alpha Delta as well as SGA. I'm going to explain to you a little bit of what those entail. So, being a part of Dayton Civic Scholars kind of involves going out throughout the greater Dayton community and connecting with different assets that surrounds us. Additionally, Flyer Promise Scholars, we are urged more or less to go connect to different people on campus. So that is something that I do quite often. That is not very foreign to me at all. Also, being a part of Phi Alpha Delta allows me to connect with community partners, etc., through chapter meetings. Also, I'm very close with our president and vice president of Phi Alpha Delta, so it's really easy for me to be able to talk to other people on campus because of that. And on top of being in different orgs, I feel as though I'm a very charismatic, confident person when it comes to talking about different issues on campus that I face personally, as well as my peers face, because I'm an advocate before I'm anybody else. I always want to stand up for the people who are unheard before I venture to do anything else. So if I am able to be a presidential candidate, as you have mentioned in your question, I know that I will be more than capable of taking on that position if Sophia is not able to, because I have the background, I have the knowledge, and I have the determination to do so, and I don't quit when certain things are thrown my way. Thank you.
And then Ryan, if you wanted to.
Sorry, I thought you were asking why we're qualified as vice president.
Why you would be qualified to fill the seat of president?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what I do lack in experience, I do consider myself a very ambitious and determined person. Should that happen, I need to be president. I'm definitely, like I said, very forward person, but I prefer to hear others' opinions, anybody else in SGA, and if we, I guess, conflict, then I definitely try to find a compromise somewhere down the line.
Thank you. At this point now, you guys can offer your closing statements, your closing thoughts, and we can start with.
Just wanted to say thank you all for showing up. It really means a lot to have students come and listen to civic engagement like this. It doesn't happen a lot, so like I said, thank you, and thank you for listening to us. As leaders, our platform is advocacy, allyship, and safety. And all of those intersect, all of our needs tend to intersect as students as well. And we believe we have the experience, as Anastasia said, the dedication, the knowledge to be able to achieve all of that. And at the same time, maybe even achieve more, depending on what comes to our plate. We are adaptable, we are transparent and accessible, we are reliable, and as Anastasia said, when things get hard, we don't give up, we look for solutions, we find compromise, and we would just love to have this platform. We really dedicate our times to student government, and we know what can be changed
what can be improved, and ways that SGA can become a more equitable, inclusive, safer, and more vocal space. So like I said, we really appreciate you all coming, listening to us. Please get out and vote on Monday. It's super important that you make your voices heard no matter who you're voting for. So thank you again.
First, yeah, thank you guys for coming out, even though you made me nervous. But I just want to say, while our ideas of advocacy, inclusivity, transparency, and reform are the foundation of our platform, and we definitely plan to execute each of these components to the best of our capabilities. We implore the students at UD to speak to SGA of any concerns or questions they may have so they can be rectified. As such, our opponents definitely have a strong platform as well, and no matter who our peers elect, I can guarantee, without a doubt, their voices will be heard in actual city.
Yeah. So to just build off of that quickly, again, we really appreciate you all coming out. We appreciate our opponents coming out as well, to hear all of our really great ideas. And no matter who is elected, I really feel like change is going to continue and happen on this campus, maybe even at levels that it never has before, which to me just makes me excited no matter what the outcome. Our platform, as we've talked about, is transparency, reform, and then at its core, inclusivity and advocacy. I left student government and took a brief intermission from this organization because I didn't feel like it was a place that was advocating for our students' needs to the best of its ability, and I vowed to not join again until it was. I feel like it is that place now, which excites me to use my experiences I've gained from my absence to continue to make it that place for all students on this campus. While I don't represent every single identity that is on this campus, I hope that I can be the person that people feel will uplift their identity and be a safe place for them to come to and really know that we will voice their concerns and fight for the students no matter what. And I think that is what drives us every single day. And so we, again, thank you so much. And this has just been a really exciting night, so we really appreciate it.